Okay. I remember what I was gonna say. Alright. Now, this is gonna sound hold on. This is gonna sound a little out there, y'all, I know. So this is what I wanted to say. And I had contacted MUFON about this. I don't know if you know what MUFON is, but MUFON is like an extraterrestrial uh, group. Um, if you've had an experience, seen UFOs, or been abducted or whatever, you get a hold of the people at MUFON, and they do it. They scheduled a phone interview with me, but at that time I was having real bad financial problems and things of that such. It just never worked out. Like I could never catch it. The only way we was communicating was through my email. We was emailing back and forth, me and MUFON, and we set a phone appointment up. At that time I didn't even have a phone, and um, at that point, like I said, I didn't have a phone, so I had to use somebody else's phone. Something always happened where I couldn't never link up with them, so that went away. But what I was gonna say about my experience earlier was, like I say, let me bring you back to part 2 of the video where I shifted my soul into another body and died and went. Well, there were some things that I seen when I was outside the body that there was a whole lot of information. But something I noticed was, and I've heard some people say something similar to this, or similar things to this, but like I say, because there were some things that my soul was going to have to learn that I couldn't be tethered here for it. I had to completely release from a form to access it, because that's the only way you can access it is when there is no coming back. You're not coming back. That you're dead. It's not a near-death experience or out of that body is dead. You're going to the dirt. You're going to return to Mother Earth. You're not coming back. Not in that form. So it was like one of them things. If you're tethered here, you can only go so far before the rubber band pulls back. You know what I mean? But if the rubber band's not connected to anything, it doesn't matter how far the rubber band goes. It never puts tension on it. You know what I mean? So that was like with my soul. When your soul leaves the body in an out-of-body experience, near-death experience, it's going and going and going, but it's still going to be pulled back, so you can only go so far. Get so much information, so much knowledge, so much data before you pull back. Well, because there's some things that are out there that's just so far that you can't reach it until you don't have a tether, until you're not anchored to it. So some of this information that I was able to access once that body died and my soul had no tether here, it had no anchor here, and it was able to go there. When I came back, like when my soul came back to my body and I moved and I wanted to write this stuff down, there was a lot of information that it's like a brick wall was put up. Like it was just cut off. Like I had the information, I had it right there. I could have spoke word for word, you know. But as soon as I got here, it's like, nope, you can't have that. You can't know these things here. It's impossible to even understand these things here. It's an amount of knowledge that is so much power in it. There's so much power in it that if it was here and you had it here, it could do real good things. Don't get me wrong. Because like I say, the different universe reality, it could do real good things. Certain things could. But there's just certain information and certain knowledge that some souls, I'm not saying people, everything has a soul. Everything's alive. Why, if I'm alive and I have a soul, why wouldn't this grass right here that's alive have a soul? It does, man. God created all living things. God is in everything. He's in the air, the wind, the rocks, the water. He's everywhere. He's everywhere at all times. Always has been, always will be. But there's some information that if some people had that knowledge, the knowledge that we can't understand, if you was able to understand it here, it would alter reality. And altering reality is just something that they can't let happen. You know, it can't happen. So it's like some people talk about the Bible, how there was books kept out of the Bible and stuff like that. I'm not talking about the specific books or certain words or whatever, or specific Bible, nothing like that. I'm just talking about how there certain people have said that there's books that have been left out or taken out for whatever reason. That's kind of what it was like. Like, I got a book, right? I got a puzzle, but some of the pieces were withheld, because if you actually had the bigger picture, you would be like, oh, but you would see it. But the whole thing is, if you see it here, somebody else can see it. And if somebody else sees it, they could use it for the wrong information, because this is something I wanted to talk about too. Now, this might sound out there. I believe in God. I believe in the devil. I believe in the soul. I believe in afterlife. You know, I believe in these things, right? I'm talking about it. I believe in it. I believe in near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, spiritually awakened people. I believe in these things, you know. I also, what we call aliens, I too believe in. Why? Because I've seen one. And I know when I'm saying this, people are going to click off this video. You probably give me hate comments. Man, I don't care. You know, I'm still going to love you. You know, no matter how much you hate me, call me crazy, whatever, I'm still going to love you, because that's what God told me to do. And that's what I want to do. You know? But it's not like I seen them in physical form. It was almost the same kind of like how I saw my soul. Like, I could see my soul. I could see my soul in 3D or whatever, however you want to call it, but I could also see right through it at the same time and see the wall and the door and stuff back behind it. Well, that's how this entity was when I seen him. I could see him, but I could also see right through him. But the first one that I seen, like I said, when all this happened, I was sitting in the spare bedroom in the floor. And when I seen him, the door was open. When I seen him, he was standing in the doorway looking at me, and he had his arms out like this. And I seen him, and I realized what he was doing, because it was almost like a screenplay. Like, I had a script, and I was reading it, and as I was reading the script or something, I was able to understand what was really going on. And like my own notes, that's how I kind of explained it to my mom. It was like some of the stuff that I'm, you know, steadily, that I'm studying even to this day. It's not like I hear it for the first time. It's like 100 years ago I went to a lecture and I took notes, and now here I am, and 100 years ago, between then and now, I forgot, and now when I'm reading my notes, it's like, oh, I remember now. It's kind of like that. And what was I talking about? No, but it was, it looked like a lizard. You know, and I've heard about people talk about reptilian people before, whatever you call them. I don't know his name. I know it had a male presence, and it was probably my height, about probably 5'10" or so. But it was a dark green color, and it was scaly. Uh, but what he was doing, he had his hands out, and they was pointing at me. He was looking at me, and I was like, you know, questioning to myself in my own outside but inside, you know. And I was, what is he doing? And I would get answers and questions, answers, and they was all at the same time. You know, time don't operate there, so all this was happening in seconds, minutes, hours, whatever, but all of it was right then. It was condensed at the same time. But it was like, I'm getting a play out of it. And what he was doing is, I was finally starting to get on a positive track with all this that was going on. I was days before this, you know, all this happened because of drugs. And days before this, me and my mom had gotten into an argument, and I said, God's not real. God does not exist. And I didn't really believe it, but I said it, you know, because I was mad, I was angry, I've been up for days. I was pissed off. I was lost. My soul was lost. And I'll be damned if days later, God showed up. He showed up. I'll never say God's not real. God does not exist. I know better now. I know better. But because of what I believe is I know him as, he introduced himself to me as God the Creator. And I think this is probably the first time I've given a description of him. But when I seen him, when I merged with my higher soul, the same warm white light with the thin golden white light around it, when I merged with it, I had those two words, what's next, pop up into my head. And my soul was no longer a formless mass. I formed my body, like my human body here. I took that form because that was more comfortable for me not to question the things that I needed to know, you know, like what am I, or, you know, I took my form so it would help put me at ease a little bit, get me through what I was fixing to go through. And so I'm now standing in this light. And I remember he came over from the right side and he had a smile on his face. The whole time he was smiling. But he had on, when you picture Jesus, or, you know, Jesus or God, sandals, the long heavy, it wasn't white, but it was like a cream colored robe, tied up with rope, long white hair, a little bit bigger than my beard, white. And he introduced himself as God the Creator. And like I've told him before, the whole time, he never led me and I never led him. The whole time when we came out of that light, we walked side by side. We walked side by side. There was no, I'm leading you and you're following. We had two very different paths that just so happened to cross. And instead of one following the other to see where you made your mistakes at, we're going to walk this path together to see why they happened, you know. But anyways, I call them lizard pricks. That's what I called them from the day that it happened, was a lizard prick, because I found out what he was doing. And what he was doing is they influence positivity with negativity. Like They put out vibrations, radio wave, frequency, whatever you want to call it, shit that we can't see, hear, or feel. They're not even in this dimension. They're in a different dimension. That's why, like I said, I could see him, but I could also see right through him because he's not here. He's somewhere else, but I'm still not sure how all of it works. Like I say, there's information that was cut off. So like that information on how that worked, I knew how it did. But as soon as I came back, it was like, nuh-uh, you can't know that here. You can't know how that shit works here. Because if you do, then shit won't be the same as it is. It won't go how it's supposed to go. It won't go that way. It'll change it differently. And it could be bad. It could be good. I don't know. Anywho, I found out what he was doing. And I seen him. And it was kind of almost like when I looked at him, it was like almost he knew that I knew I could see him. And there for several days after that, he followed me around my home, trying to, because they feed off of it. I think they feed off of it. They're so negative that I think they feed off positivity, maybe even your soul. Like when they corrupt you, maybe they feed off your soul. You know, hence God, maybe that was a demon, Satan, I don't know. I'll get into that part of this, you know, the devil and God on another video. I got some things about that you know, my footsteps, you know. But I'll go into that later. But anyways, he followed me around trying to corrupt me, you know, to get me to go back to what I was doing before, you know, to keep that life up, because they were winning off me, you know. And I didn't want it no more. Shit, I done said it. Man, you ain't offering nothing that God's offering. All I'm saying, and even if you was, man, I belong to God. Period. Point blank, period. No matter what happens, I belong to God. You know, God's in me. He's all around me. Every human is pure positive power. But it can be corrupted. The same thing like positives and negatives. You walk into a room, somebody's feeling really, really just miserable, horrible. You can feel it. You know, sometimes it'll rub off on you and put you in a bad mood. But the same thing goes with positive. But the only thing is, positive is a lot stronger than negative. So like, if you walk into a room and somebody's feeling bad, that negativity, and power up. Power up. Let your soul shine. That's what it's made to do. It's made to shine. But we're distracted by brain. The brain is very distracting. It can be. And other outside influences. It can be very distracting. But you can change negativity. Positive can change negativity. So you can change it. When I seen him, like I say, he followed me. And he eventually got tired of it, because I told him it ain't gonna work no more, you know, and he left. But then I walked outside that night, and they were all the way from my yard, from about 5 or 6 feet away to down the corner. I could see what looked like glass shards in the air, and they weren't straight up and down. They were a little slanted, but it looked like little glass shards that were kind of like reflecting the light passing in through them. And what people say little gray aliens, that's what these look like. But there was a lot of them, and they were coming in and out of that little shard of glass. Like they would come out, and then they would see me, and their mouths weren't moving, but I could hear them, but they were talking to each other. Like there was multiple, and they were talking to each other, and they was like, oh, he can see us, and they would go back into that shard. But it's almost like wherever they was going back to, they was telling other ones about me, because like I said, them shards were all over the place, and they would keep coming out of them and be like, oh, he can see, and they would go back in. And I thought that was very wild. But yeah, I just wanted to say that because that's what I forgot and I was going to say. So I wanted to put that video out there for y'all. I know it's hard to believe, and if you don't believe it, don't believe it. You know, if you do believe it, believe it. I'm not trying to change what you believe in, anything like that. I'm just trying to document my experience, you know, what I believe. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I 100% truly believe that what I'm believing in is my path. And I think that's what God meant for all of us, is our path we walk. That's where we walk. That's what we follow. But thank you, and God bless you. I love you. And I'll post more as I go or whatever. Just stay happy.